Good evening, welcome to Happily Never After. Our story today is from the Brothers Grimm book of fairy tales. Once upon a time, there was a dear little girl who was loved by everyone who looked at her, but most of all by her grandmother. She gave her a little Red Riding Hood, which suited her so well that she would never wear anything else, so she was always to be called Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother said to her, "Come, Little Red Riding Hood, here is a piece of cake and a bottle of wine. Take them to your grandmother. She is ill and weak, and they will do her good. When you are going, walk nicely and quietly, and do not run off the path, or you may fall and break the bottle." "I will take great care," she said to her mother. The grandmother lived out in the wood, half a league from the village, and just as Little Red Riding Hood entered the wood, a wolf met her. Red Riding Hood did not know what a wicked creature he was, and was not at all afraid of him. "Good day, Little Red Riding Hood," said he. "Thank you kindly, wolf. Where are you going, Little Red Riding Hood?" "To my grandmother's." "What have you got in your apron?" "Cake and wine. Yesterday was baking day, so poor sick grandmother is to have something good to make her stronger." "Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?" "Her house stands under the 3 large oak trees. You must know it," replied Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf thought to himself, "What a tender young creature, what a nice plump mouthful. She will be better to eat than the old woman. I must act craftily, so as to catch both." So he walked for a short time by the side of Little Red Riding Hood, and then he said, "See, Little Red Riding Hood, how pretty the flowers are over there. Why don't you look around?" Little Red Riding Hood looked around, and when she saw the pretty flowers growing everywhere, she thought, "Suppose I take grandmother her favourite flowers. That would please her. It is so early in the day that I shall still get there in good time." So she ran in from the path into the wood to look for flowers, and whenever she had picked one, she fancied that she saw still a prettier one further on, and ran after it, and got so deeper and deeper into the wood. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house and knocked at the door. "Who is there?" "Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf. "She's bringing cake and wine. Open the door." "Lift the latch," called out the grandmother. "I'm too weak and cannot get up." The wolf lifted the latch, and the door sprang open, and without saying a word, he went straight to the grandmother's bed and devoured her. Then he put on her clothes and dressed himself in her cap, laid himself in bed, and drew the curtains. Little Red Riding Hood, however, had been running about picking flowers, and when she had gathered so many that she could carry no more, she remembered her grandmother and set out on her way to her. She was surprised to find the cottage door standing open, and when she went into the room, she called out, "Good morning," but received no answer, so she went to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay her grandmother, with her cap pulled far over her face and looking very strange. "Oh, grandmother," she said, "what big ears you have!" "All the better to hear you with, my child," said the wolf. "But grandmother, what big eyes you have!" she said. "All the better to see you with, my dear." "But grandmother, what large hands you have!" "All the better to hug you with." "Oh, but grandmother, what a terrible big mouth you have!" "All the better to eat you with." And scarcely had the wolf said this, than with one bound he was out of bed and swallowed up Red Riding Hood. When the wolf had appeased his appetite, he lay down again in bed and fell asleep and began to snore very loud. The huntsman was just passing the house and thought to himself, "How the old woman is snoring! I must see if she wants anything." So he went into the room, and when he came to the bed, he saw the wolf was lying in it. But just as he was going to fire at him, it occurred to him that the wolf may have devoured the grandmother, and that she might still be saved. So he did not fire, but took a pair of scissors and began to cut open the stomach of the wolf. The grandmother came out alive, but scarcely able to breathe. Red Riding Hood quickly fetched great stones, with which they filled the wolf's belly, and when he awoke, he wanted to run away, but the stones were so heavy that he collapsed at once and fell dead. All 3 were delighted, and the huntsman drew off the wolf's skin and went home with it. Riding Hood thought to herself, "As long as I live, I will never leave the path by myself to run into the wood when my mother has forbidden me to do so." And so the tale of Little Red Cap ends. Tune in next week for more tales from the Brothers Grimm. Sleep tight, my friends, and I hope the bedbugs bite.